Look around you. Watch how people move through the world today. They're reacting to everything. A notification lights up their screen and their pulse quickens. Someone leaves them on red and anxiety floods their chest. They post something online and refresh obsessively, waiting for validation that never quite satisfies. They chase success with white knuckles, terrified that if they don't grasp it hard enough, it will slip away. They hold on to relationships so tightly that love turns into possession and connection becomes chains. This is the modern condition. We are drowning in attachment. Attached to outcomes we cannot control, attached to people who may leave, attached to opinions that shift like sand, attached to a version of ourselves that requires constant external approval to feel real. And in this attachment, we suffer. We become slaves to circumstance, prisoners of our own desperate need for things to be different than they are. But there is another way. There has always been another way. Picture a different kind of person. Someone who walks through the same storms, faces the same losses, encounters the same chaos, but remains somehow untouched. Not because they don't care, not because they've numbed themselves to life, but because they have learned something profound, something the ancient Stoics understood 2,000 years ago. They have learned to care correctly. They have discovered the superpower of detachment. Detachment is not coldness. Let that be clear from the start. The Stoic who practices detachment is not building walls around his heart or retreating from the world to some emotionless cave. Detachment is clarity. It is the ability to love fully without being owned by that love. It is the power to act with purpose without being enslaved by the results. It is the freedom to live intensely while holding everything lightly. For the Stoic, detachment is liberation from the chains of external control. It is freedom from the fear of loss, from the craving for approval, from the illusion that anything in this world is permanent enough to justify our emotional slavery to it. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor who ruled Rome while contemplating the nature of human suffering, wrote something that cuts to the heart of this truth. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Read those words again. Let them settle. Your power is not over whether people love you. Your power is not over whether your plans succeed. Your power is not over whether the world recognizes your worth. Your power is over one thing alone: your mind, your response, your inner kingdom. And the moment you realize this, the moment you stop trying to control what was never yours to control, everything changes. Emotional peace begins the instant you release your grip on the opinions of others, on their reactions, on their choices. You cannot control them. You were never meant to. And accepting this is not defeat. It is the first breath of freedom. Imagine a man who loses a relationship. The woman he loved has chosen to leave. For most people, this becomes an identity crisis. They spiral into questions of worthiness. They replay every conversation, searching for where they failed. They reach out desperately, trying to pull back what is already gone. But the Stoic stands differently in this moment. He feels the loss. He acknowledges the pain, but he does not lose himself. He understands that people are not possessions, that love given freely can also be withdrawn freely, and that his value does not diminish because someone else's path diverged from his. He loved with an open hand, and so when it ended, he simply opened his hand further and let go. This is detachment in action. This is strength. Picture an athlete who has trained for years, who steps onto the field with everything to lose. The game ends, loses. The crowd disperses. The cameras turn away. For most, this is devastation. For the detached mind, this is simply what happened. He gave his best. The outcome was beyond his control. Epictetus taught that there are things within our control and things outside it, and wisdom is knowing the difference. The athlete controlled his preparation, his effort, his discipline. The result? That belonged to the gods, to chance, to the 1,000 variables no single person can master. So he walks from that field with his head high, not because he is arrogant, but because he is free. Free from the need for the world to validate what he already knows about himself. Consider a leader in crisis. The company is collapsing. People are panicking. Accusations fly. Blame spreads like fire. And in the center of this chaos stands someone who does not react. Not because he doesn't care about the outcome, but because he understands that panic serves nothing. The detached mind is like a mountain. The wind howls against it. The storms rage and beat upon its face. But the mountain remains. It does not argue with the storm. It does not demand the weather change. It simply stands, solid and unmoved, until the storm passes, as all storms do. This is the power of Stoic detachment. You become the still point in a turning world. The Stoics understood that true detachment rests on 3 pillars. 3 practices that, when mastered, grant you sovereignty over your inner life. The first is detachment from outcomes. Act with excellence, they taught, but release the need for success or recognition. Do the work as if the result doesn't matter. Not because it actually doesn't, but because tying your peace to outcomes puts your serenity in the hands of fate. Seneca wrote that the wise person possesses everything within himself, while the foolish one depends on fortune. When you detach from outcomes, you reclaim your power. You can pour everything into your craft, your relationships, your goals, and then let them go. You plant seeds without demanding they become trees. You love without requiring love in return. You create without needing applause. And in this release, you find something remarkable. You actually perform better. Because desperation makes you clumsy. Need makes you weak. But the person who acts without attachment to results moves with grace, with confidence, with the fluid power of someone who has nothing to prove. The second pillar is detachment from people. This sounds harsh until you understand what it truly means. It does not mean caring less. It means loving without possession, connecting without dependency. So many relationships become toxic, not because the love wasn't real, but because it became a cage. One person makes another person responsible for their happiness, their identity, their sense of worth. And when that person inevitably fails to be everything, cannot be everything, the love curdles into resentment. The Stoic loves differently. He sees people as autonomous beings on their own journeys. He cherishes their presence but does not cling to it. He knows that everyone he loves will one day leave, whether through death or distance or choice. And he does not let this truth poison the present moment. Instead, he loves more fully precisely because he knows it is temporary. He holds close without grasping. He commits without demanding permanence. And when loss comes, as it always does, he grieves with dignity and moves forward without bitterness. This is not cold. This is the deepest form of respect for both yourself and others. The third pillar is detachment from emotion. Feel fully, the Stoics taught, but do not be ruled by feelings. Emotions are information, not commands. Anger tells you something matters to you. Fear alerts you to perceived danger. Sadness acknowledges loss. But none of these emotions should pilot your life. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that he would encounter angry people, ungrateful people, deceitful people, and that their behavior was their own. He could acknowledge his emotional response without being enslaved by it. When someone insults you, you feel the sting. Detachment doesn't erase that, but it allows you to observe the feeling, understand it, and choose your response rather than react reflexively. The person who masters their emotions is not emotionless. They are powerful because they can feel rage and choose peace. They can feel fear and choose courage. They can feel attachment and choose freedom. Epictetus knew this truth intimately. He was born a slave, his body owned by another man, his freedom stolen before he ever had a choice. And yet, in chains, he discovered something his masters never understood. True freedom is not the ability to do whatever you want. It is the power to remain unmoved by what you cannot control. They could bind his body, but they could not touch his mind. They could dictate his days, but they could not dictate his thoughts. And so, in the deepest bondage, Epictetus was freer than most people who walk the earth unchained. He learned detachment not as philosophy, but as survival. And he taught that the only prison that matters is the one we build in our own minds. When we insist the world be different than it is, Detachment does not make you indifferent. It makes you powerful. Because the person who does not depend on anything external cannot be manipulated. They cannot be broken by loss because they never pretended things were permanent. They cannot be controlled by opinion because they do not derive their worth from judgment. They cannot be shattered by rejection because they know that another person's choice says everything about that person and nothing about their inherent value. The Stoic detaches not to escape life, but to engage with it more wisely, to act without desperation, to love without fear, to live without the constant exhausting noise of needing more, needing different, needing validation that the universe was never designed to provide. This is not passive. This is not resignation. This is the most active stance you can take toward existence. When you detach, you stop wasting energy on what you cannot change and pour everything into what you can. You stop begging for peace and become peace. You stop chasing validation and embody self-respect. You no longer argue with reality, and in that acceptance you find a strange paradox. You become more capable of changing what can be changed because you're no longer exhausting yourself fighting what cannot. Detachment is not the absence of passion. It is the presence of perspective. It is knowing that this moment matters immensely and also not at all. It matters because it is the only moment you have, and how you meet it shapes who you are. It doesn't matter because in the grand sweep of time, this will pass and something else will come, and that too will pass. Everything ends. Every relationship, every success, every failure, every breath. The Stoic does not find this depressing. He finds it liberating. Because if everything ends, then nothing can enslave you. You can enjoy it all without needing to keep it. You can love knowing it will end and love more deeply because of it. The person who can walk away with grace is untouchable. The person who can stay silent under insult is unbreakable. The person who can love without fear of loss is free. This is the Stoic superpower. This is what detachment grants you. Not a life without feeling, but a life where feelings no longer pull your strings. Not a heart without love, but a heart that loves without conditions. Not a mind without care, but a mind that cares without dependence. When nothing outside you controls you, you are free. When you no longer cling to what must end, you can finally hold life with open hands. Detachment is not the absence of care. It is the mastery of it. It is the calm within chaos, the strength behind silence, the unshakable center that no storm can disturb. This is the path the Stoics walked 2,000 years ago, and it is still the path to freedom today. Not a freedom granted by circumstances, but a freedom you claim within yourself. Regardless of what the world does or doesn't give you, that is the superpower. That is the gift of detachment, and it has been waiting for you all along.